Hi, hello, and welcome to the Read Books, Be Kind podcast, where I, your host, Amy Prokopis, hang out with other authors and bookish people and talk about bookish and authorly things. Whether you are listening to us or watching us on YouTube, or you are watching the extended version over on Patreon, we are glad that you are here. This is episode 2. I promise we are going to have episodes with guests very, very soon. I am currently working on putting together a list. I've had several people fill out my Google form for my guest interest Google form. It is in the description box. It's in my link tree. It is all over. And everything connected with me, all the content I produce and put out online, it is there. So if you are interested in being a guest, you can fill that out and I will hopefully get back to you and we can schedule some time. So I currently have kind of a list going. Very excited. Cannot wait to bring other people on and share this community with more than just me and hopefully provide value that I cannot provide to you through other people and their experiences. Today, no guest. However, we are talking everything 2025, everything New Year. I love this time of year. This is my favorite time of the year because it is the time of the year everybody is just filled with hope for the new year and change, and everyone's anticipating doing something new and just developing goals for ourselves and thinking about all the things that we would like to accomplish in the new year. So this is the time of the year where I sit down, I get really intentional about setting my goals as an author. I usually set a couple personal goals as well, just for myself. And I do have some of those. They're a little bit different this year because one thing I really learned in 2024 is some of the pitfalls that I've been falling into that have led me not to meet a lot of my goals. And I found out that it was not my motivation or the steps I put into place to achieve those goals, but it was the way that I was approaching and setting my goals themselves. So we are going to talk about that today. I want to reflect on 2024, what I have accomplished, a little more on what I just said about what I've learned throughout 2024 related to goal setting and accomplishments. And I wanted to share as well a little more about my 2025 goals. So if you are watching on Spotify or your other podcast provider and you have never come over to my YouTube channel, you should, because on YouTube for the past several years, I have done a video where I set and I talk about my goals for the year. And then at the end of the year, we do another video where we review those goals. And I watch that video back for the first time in over a year. So that video is coming to my YouTube channel. It is super, super fun. So it will be a little different. It'll be more of a response to video than this one where we kind of analyze and discuss the approach. So go check that out on my YouTube channel, definitely. So in setting 2025 goals, I want to discuss and share with you guys a little bit more about how my approach has changed and how I have set different goals than what I've set before and why I have created them in the way that I have. So before we do that though, I want to talk a little bit about just goal setting in general, especially because while this time of the year can be super energizing for people, especially like I always get super energized and I feel really hopeful about the future, some people don't feel that way. Some people approaching the end of the year think nothing except about the fact that they haven't accomplished things that they feel are impactful or great, or maybe they haven't met the goals that they set for themselves. And I want to really talk about that for a moment, because even if you haven't left your couch today, say that it has been a really rough week. You've pretty much spent the whole week doing the whole rotting on the couch thing. You've just sat there, listened to TV, listened to this podcast, maybe other things. I want to tell you that you actually have accomplished something, and that is rest, self-care. You've taken care of yourself. You've listened to your body and took a rest. And that is accomplishing something, because if we don't take care of our bodies, we cannot accomplish anything else. And so in doing that, you have done what you need to do for yourself. You've set the groundwork. You've already taken care of step one, which is always assessing, taking a look at your surroundings and your own ability to approach whatever it is you're trying to accomplish in your life. And you have to do all of those steps before you can ever get out and do that great big task that you think is going to be accomplishing something. So in a lot of ways, we accomplish our goals in doing nothing at all, because if you haven't reflected on them yet and you haven't taken care of yourself and your body, even if you are able to push through and accomplish a big goal at the end, if you are so exhausted, I mean, I think about it a lot like a party. Maybe every year at the Prokopis household, we throw a big Halloween party. So I'll use an example from this last year, from 2024, as an example. We go all out for this Halloween party. We decorate the inside of our house far more than the outside. And every year we've added more decorations. And so every year it has added more to our plates the day of the party. And this last year, in 2024, or not 20, it would have been more like 2023, it became an all-day affair, to the point that by the time the party actually happened, we were a little exhausted and had a hard time making it to the end of the night and enjoying ourselves with our friends and all the people that we had done all of this work to enjoy time with. And because we had pushed through and done so many tasks throughout the day, the actual big task that we were accomplishing, it was fun. Yes, it was. It was really fun, but we were so exhausted that it took us the entire weekend to feel refreshed and recovered and into the next week. And so we were just so exhausted that it was almost hard to enjoy it as fully as we could have. And so what I'm saying, and what we did this year differently, as a matter of fact, for our Halloween party, is we spread the work out. So we still did all the decorations. We still did just about everything the way we did before. We made slight minor adjustments. One thing we found was that doing a little bit of decor every day, between playing with Finn and doing all the house stuff and all the normal day-to-day, putting up a couple decorations here and there, made the day of really relaxing, and we could enjoy having the decor and having everything done and just enjoy being within that spooky environment, because we had done it a little bit at a time, further out than what the original steps were to accomplish the goal of the Halloween party. Something else we did that I am also considering in some of my goal setting for 2025 is, rather than do it all ourselves, we actually paid to have help. What I mean is, the last several years, we did all of the cooking and the food, and we provided all of that ourselves. Alex really likes to cook, and he's really good at it. We will, I'm sure, have him on this podcast eventually just to talk about things, and he'll share more about himself with you. But one thing he's really good at and enjoys to do is cooking. He's phenomenal. And so that is why in the past few years, he's done it all himself, because it's been fun. It was fun to come up with, a spooky meal plan. That was a fun thing to do, and it still is. However, when you added that work in with the rest of the day, it made it not as enjoyable, because one, he'd spent like hours before the actual party cooking and preparing. So by the time the party happens, he's already a little bit more tired and exhausted. And then also, he spent time catering the food throughout the party as well. So what we did this last year is we discovered it would be much better off for the party, rather than catering this big meal, pushing the start time of the party back so everyone would go and eat a meal before. And then we hired somebody to come in and put together a spooky, super cool charcuterie board. It was like a giant skeleton that she had laid out on this table. It was amazing. And so we paid to have somebody come in. She put it all together while she was there and then left. And then by that time, the party, everyone was starting to gather, and we could enjoy our friends and not have to worry about, one, cooking all of this food, and two, putting all of it together, because it was already done. So all we had to do the day of this really great party was contact friends as they were coming into town, maybe do a few things here and there, like turn on all of the spooky lights and stuff, and just make sure the environment was set. We looked up a playlist. We watched a couple episodes of House MD together and enjoyed our time. Halloween, my parents always watch our son. And so what ended up happening was not only did we gain a lot of time back to really enjoy the party that night and be rested for it and enjoy our friends, but we also gained time for ourselves. And we made a day date of it, watched TV together. We cooked a little bit of a nice meal together and enjoyed it. And we gained a lot of time together. And in that, the party was as fulfilling as we had intended for it to be. So not only had we met that goal, we were going to meet that goal regardless, but we met it in a way that allowed for us to enjoy the full amount of it a lot more than if we had just, focused in and just done our best effort and done it all perfectly and, pulled out all the 9 yards and just had done it all the day of and really put a ton of work into it. We could actually enjoy it a whole lot more because we had spread it out and we had been more intentional about everything that we wanted to go into it and what was worth putting into it. So that long story to say, new year, new me mentality is a very, very real thing. And so be kind to yourself. Think about what you can give to your goals, what you're willing to give, and also what benefits you in the long run. Because being super, super exhausted when you're trying to host a party with the people that you care about isn't actually going to benefit you in the long run. It just makes you exhausted and tired. And sometimes it's worth doing, making your big goals, not to make them any less or to make them a little smaller, but maybe to approach them with a different mindset so that you can actually appreciate what you have accomplished. So be kind to yourself when you're setting goals here in 2025, and also be kind to the people who are also setting goals. This time of the year, in a lot of our online social media will be people setting their intentions and announcing them in public. Facebook feed, Instagram feed, people that you see at work, people you run into on the street, maybe telling you, I am changing this in 2025. And that is amazing. And we should champion them and really cheer them on. And even if their goals seem a little bit high or a little silly, or maybe they are not approaching them in a way that you feel like they're setting themselves up for success, a huge part of helping other people achieve things is being supportive. So keep that in mind as everybody is online pushing out their intentions and their hopes and dreams for 2025 as well. So something else, because a lot of people don't set New Year's resolutions. Not so much that this is a New Year's resolution. I mean, we are setting goals. I always set goals for myself. Would I say that they're really New Year's resolutions? I wouldn't. I think they're slightly different. But I do think that it is really important to set goals for yourself. Even if you're not somebody like me that has a business to run, you write books, I do think that it's important for us to set goals. And you don't have to set a goal for a whole year out. You could set a goal for the month. It could be for a week, even just for the day. But I think it's important because there's a lot of things that goals can do for you. For one, they give you a sense of accomplishment and they allow you a space to reflect on things that you're doing well. And honestly, coming from somebody who has studied psychology and is planning to be a licensed professional counselor here very, very soon, there's a kind of dopamine release that happens in your brain, which makes you happy because that's what dopamine does. It's a chemical that makes you feel good. And there's a dopamine that releases when you've accomplished something. So by setting goals, even if they're really small goals, little steps, goals a day, whatever it is, by accomplishing it and being able to check it off a list, you give yourself a boost in confidence. And so I like to say you can kind of, in some ways, trick your brain into feeling a little bit better just by setting by developing small steps as you go to reach bigger ones, because it'll motivate you in a forward momentum and keep you moving forward. So goals are super important for that. They're also really important for somebody like me as a business owner, because any kind of forward momentum leads to progress. And in goal setting, because this is a very, very important part of goal setting, you have to anticipate potential roadblocks before they're right in front of you. So when you're setting goals, it is really, really important to think about not just what do I want to accomplish, but what are all of the things that I can think of, every single one of them, that could potentially get in the way of me accomplishing this goal. And then you have to create a plan for each of those things. How am I going to fix these issues? Because if you don't, they're just roadblocks on your way to your goal, and they're a reason you may not accomplish that goal at all. So before you even set a goal, you need to think about what things are in the way, because you may actually find in doing that there's a better goal you should set. Or maybe there's something that a goal you need to set first and hit that before you're even able to approach that big goal. Super important to think about that. Reaching goals can be super motivating, like I said, and setting really small goals can help move you towards a bigger goal. So if you're like me, you get really, really overwhelmed by the to-do list of day-to-day life. That is me. I have ADHD. I've been really open talking about that. And so I get very overwhelmed at like the monotony of day-to-day life. So the number of dishes sitting around, the house is a disaster. Finn's toys are everywhere. I still have to write. All of that stuff really wears on me. And I think that's the case for a lot of us, especially if you are a busy mom, because we still live in a society that is very patriarchal. So moms not only tend to be the caretakers of the household and the children, but they also tend to have their own lives outside of the house. So most moms hold jobs, I would say, in today's world. And so even though things are a lot more evenly distributed between partners, like, I don't know, wife, husband, husband, wife, whatever your relationship is, or however many there are in your relationship, things tend to be still fairly patriarchal, and the female in the household still bears quite a bit of the mental load of the household. And so if you're like me, that wears on you very, very fast. And in setting small goals, so rather than just set my big 2025 goals, I also set monthly smaller goals that are designed to get me to those great big ones for the entire year. And from there, I set smaller goals even for the week. And that is how I continue moving myself forward. It may sound like a super, super intricate web. That may even sound overwhelming to you right now. I am going to go into a little further depth in this podcast episode about how I get started setting that goal and how I can set that goal up for success. So before you get overwhelmed, panicked, and turn off this episode, we are going to start real simple. And I'll show you in just a second. So before we get to it, what kind of goals do I even set? I call them my triple Ps. I set a publishing goal. So those are all the books I want to publish. I set professional goals, which are similar to publishing goals. There are things like my social media associated to my author accounts, my YouTube channel, which is associated with my business, going on a writing retreat. So my professional goals are things I want to accomplish that lead to further success in authordom in the business world. And then third, I set personal goals. So those are things that I want to do for myself for personal growth. So it has nothing to do with the business, has nothing to do with any of that. It's things just for myself that would benefit me in some way or make me feel good or something that I've always wanted to do before. So I set those goals as well. And the system I use to set those goals, it's called SMART goals. So SMART is an acronym, which means that every letter in the word SMART stands for something. So S, the very beginning letter in SMART, stands for specific. What is the specific goal? And you need to be specific. So not just a great big broad goal, you want to target it. Is measurable. How are you going to measure progress towards that goal? How are you going to measure when you've accomplished it? A is attainable. Is this goal actually attainable for you at this moment? And that is where earlier in this episode, I was talking about how you need to think about what potential roadblocks are in your way. This is that step. So think about everything that could get in your way to reaching that goal, because if there's too many things in the way or too many things you need to do first, then maybe you need to set a different goal. So that is what this attainable means. If this goal is attainable, it fits the SMART goal model and it's a good goal to have. Next is the R in SMART, which is relevant/realistic. Is this something that's relevant to your overall big goal? So I set publishing goals and professional goals, right? So I need those to be relevant to the business. So I always set a goal of achieving so many followers on my social media accounts. Is that relevant? Well, it is relevant because the more people that are seeing my content, the more people that are seeing the covers of my books on my social media accounts, the more people may go look at them, purchase them, and that expands my readership, which is a business asset. Huge help to promoting my business. So yes, that is a relevant goal. Realistic, I also include that with it because is it realistic for you to set this goal? Realistic and attainable would kind of go together. Does it make sense for you to have this goal to achieve a bigger overarching goal? I add realistic with relevant in the R because sometimes we set goals that don't fully make sense, or maybe they don't give you the biggest return on investment as some other goal might. So that is what I mean by realistic. Is there a goal you could set instead that would lead to a better outcome than the goal that you are currently setting? So that is something to consider also. Is there a better alternative than setting this many followers on Instagram? Would it be better to focus on a different social media account, for instance? And T in SMART, the very final step is time. You need to give yourself an endpoint for this goal. Yes, I also have great big goals like bucket list items or just big business goals that are open-ended. They don't have a time deadline, but they're goals that are overarching. So for instance, I said maybe there's a goal you've set, but you need to achieve some other things first. That goal that you originally set would maybe be one of those overarching goals. There's not an end date to it yet. We're working towards that, and we're working towards that from these smaller SMART goals that we're setting right now. That is what I mean. A SMART goal needs to have some kind of an end result. So for 2025, my SMART goals all end by the end of 2025. And if they can't be done in that time frame and I can't see a path towards doing it at that time, then that goal is for a later date because it needs more work. And you could do this for anything. You can set a SMART goal for the month. The time would be 1 month. I will do XYZ in 1 month. Here's the specific goal. I'm going to measure it every week. It's attainable because it leads to the big yearly goal, and it's relevant because it helps the business, and we're going to do it by the end of this month. That would be a SMART goal for 1 month. And I think the SMART model is a really great way to break down your goals and start developing the steps in order to achieve them. So next, reflecting on 2024, because I think I did a good job setting my goals. I accomplished a lot more in 2024 than I did the year before, a lot more. And I know in hindsight that it's because I changed the way that I approached my goals and I set them a little bit differently. And in 2025, I'm going to continue doing that. And I am hoping and setting myself up so that I can achieve every one of my goals. Because in 2024, I did not actually achieve all of my goals. So let's get into that. Let's reflect on it. And I'll tell you a little bit on why I think I didn't achieve some of those things. So my biggest goal and was my biggest priority in my mind going into 2024 was to publish 3 books. That was the priority goal. That's where my entire headspace was. Everything was geared towards those 3 books. And I published the Guardians of the Sixth Gate Omnibus, which is my entire Guardians of the Sixth Gate trilogy in a hardback version. It was beautiful. I wish I had it in front of me right now to show you. It is gorgeous. And it has 3 additional scenes that are not available anywhere else except Patreon. And that is one of the books I published in 2024. I also published Curse of Wings and Darkness. I do have that one with me. Curse of Wings and Darkness is my steamy vampire romance. It's the first book in the Curse of Wings series, a brand new series. I published this in October. I love this book. It was my venture into new adult, or one of my ventures into new adult in spicy books. I published that, and I re-released Winter Witches with a new cover. I did a lot of soul seeking and searching. That could be a whole episode in itself, rethinking of the Season of Witches series. But I published that with a new cover, and then I published Frozen as Friends December 1st this month. So not only did I reach my goal of publishing 3 books, but I actually exceeded it because I published technically 4 if you include the re-release of Winter Witches. So I smashed that out of the park. That, like I said, was my priority, super focus in 2024. So published 3 books, check. My Instagram goal, because I always set social media goals, was 700 followers. I have 3,046 today. I actually reached this goal in January. So not even a month after I said I wanted 700 followers, I hit like 1,000. So I super exceeded that goal. I was very excited about it. It expanded my reach a ton, led to more readers, led to new connections. I made some new author friends and reader friends on Instagram through achieving that goal. So I was super excited for that. TikTok, I believe my goal was, I actually, for whatever reason, did not write that down. I believe my goal was 1,000 followers. I'd have to look again. I don't know. Either way, and TikTok today, I know that I've doubled it because I have 6,225 followers right now on TikTok. TikTok with Book Talk was a huge platform. It's one I put a lot of focus into last year with all of my marketing resources, was TikTok because of Book Talk. We all know a lot of people have seen success there. So I was really excited to expand that account and grow it twofold. Patreon, I wanted 10 Patreon members. I have 13, I believe, now. I am very excited to have all 13 of you as well. And we grow a lot more in the last couple of months because I have shifted my focus already into 2025. And that goes in hand with one of my 2025 goals that we will share in a moment. Patreon grew. I accomplished that goal. I accomplished Instagram, TikTok. YouTube, I did not accomplish. I did set my YouTube goal kind of high, to be entirely honest. And I knew it at the time. In the video, I have not watched my video yet where I set my 2024 goals, but I do believe in the video that I even said that I set this goal a little high and I didn't know if I would reach it. And that is where I am approaching things a little bit differently. I do think I set it too high. In hindsight, I would have set that a bit lower. I would have made it probably 400. Because today I have 418 YouTube subscribers. So I would definitely have changed that in hindsight. I also set a goal to publish 1 newsletter a month, which I have done. My newsletter, which is all about what's coming up in the next month, goes out the first of every single month. I have done that. I also said I wanted to publish a short story to Patreon every month. I have not done that. Not at all. I actually nixed that idea after I made the goal. And I don't fully understand why I even set that goal. Now, going into 2025, I do think it was because I wanted to focus on creating more content for Patreon. But a year ago, in my growth and my skill set and where I was as an author and with my business, it did not make sense for me to focus on all of the things that I had set goals for. And Patreon was one of those that while yes, it got monthly content, the way I was pushing myself to produce content on Patreon did not make sense for the skills that I had at that moment. It was wishful thinking, me setting that goal. Honestly, at that time, I really think in 2024, when I set my goals, I was thinking a little less about where I actually was and what was doable for me and actually benefited me. And I focused instead a little bit more on what everyone else that was seeing a lot of success, or at least that I thought was successful, what they were doing with the same platforms. And I mirrored that. I shouldn't have done that. Yes, these are all very good goals that I set, and I really wanted to set them, and I achieved many of them. But in hindsight, I pushed myself a little too far and spread myself out a little too thin, given the skill set that I had. So I fell short on all of my Patreon content. I also set a personal goal of working out 2 times a week. I have not done that. I would love to get back to running. If you didn't know, I am a long distance runner. I have run several half marathons. I have trained for a full marathon, although I did not end up running a full marathon because of 2020 that canceled many events like that. And I also had a baby. So by the time I had stopped marathon training, I was up to 16 miles, I think. I was running 16 miles on my long run. So I had not fully committed to that goal. I would love to work out more often. One thing I have done is I've shifted my perspective as far as what moving my body and keeping my body healthy looks like. So for the longest time, I saw working out as being like going on a long run, spending 30 minutes at the gym, really with lifting weights, because those are the things that I wanted to do and I wish that I had the time to do. But the truth is, I can still accomplish a goal of moving my body every single day even. It just doesn't have to look like that. And so I, this year, am still setting a personal goal of movement like that and working out, but my expectations are different. I'm not expecting to like be grinding it out at the gym. I'm not expecting to pump iron per se. I'm just expecting to move my body every day in some way. And that can be as small as like doing exercise at home that is just stretching my body, and that is good enough. So I'm approaching how I complete that goal differently. I am allowing myself and allowing the expectations of what meeting that looks like to be a little different. So did I work out 2 times a week? I did not, at least not the way that I had set that goal in 2024. I also told myself I wanted to start freelance editing. That is something that I did accomplish in 2024. I actually started that over the summer months after I left my school counseling job. I took on several clients. I actually am working with one right now. And yes, I have done editing every single month since, I believe, June. I think I started in late June. Yeah. So I have had editing clients. So yes, I have accomplished that goal, and I have learned a lot from being an editor. You learn a lot when you look at other people's work than when you just look at your own, and you learn a lot about your process. You add to your toolkit. I highly encourage everybody to join a writer group if you can. Have writer friends at least. That is something that I think can be hugely valuable to all authors. And the final goal for 2024, did I create my own book cover? I did. Not only did I create my own book cover, I created 4, I believe. I created the covers for all of my last few books, all of my last 3 releases. I am very, very pleased with doing that because 1, I've learned a new skill, and I've also gained a lot of graphic design elements, and I've gained a lot of skills that help with my marketing and have taught me what to look for in book covers, what sells book covers. I've learned a lot of skills, not just how to actually do the act of creating a book cover. So I'm very glad that I went ahead and made that a goal and devoted time to learning that skill because it has been hugely beneficial for that reason. But also I saved hundreds of dollars doing my own book cover and learning to do it well. And that is something that I am very proud of and has benefited my business hugely because that's money that I was able to keep in my business accounts because I didn't have to spend them on a book cover, which was great. Would I advise others to do that? Yes and no. I think if you have the time to learn the skill and you feel confident in that and you're willing to put time and effort into that, then yes. I would say try your hand at creating your own book cover. I will say, in order to do it well, I did purchase a couple of courses. I did some master classes. I did put money into learning the skill, but I earned back that money in doing my own covers. It took a little time, but I did. So yes and no is what I'm saying. If you're very tech savvy, I do think it's doable for you to learn to do your own book cover, and I do think it would pay off. Yes, you can always make book covers cheaper. When I talk with soon-to-be authors, people who are just starting out, people who would like to become an author eventually, I always tell them that they should put the most of their budget into book editing and their book cover, because ultimately we say don't judge a book by its cover, but we all do. And when your book is up on a shelf along with other books, the way it looks tells people a lot about it. And the unfortunate truth is that for some people, when a book cover looks really nice, they assume that the book inside is also really nice. And when a book cover does not look super nice and professional, they assume that the book itself is not nice and professional. And that's not the truth. There are a lot of people who do all the proper editing and are fantastic writers on their own, and they write fantastic books, but they just don't have the money for the cover, or they just don't have a great cover for that book, whatever reason. And so it's not true that the cover equals the quality of the book. However, a lot of people, when browsing stores, they're not going to gravitate towards that book, and they're not going to know that it's a great book because they haven't picked it up off the shelf. So it's like curb appeal for a house. You know, people are more likely to click on a listing for a house that looks really nice on the outside and is in their budget than a house that is in their budget and the outside does not look so nice. So it is worth putting the effort and the money into a book cover. So I would not necessarily advise everybody learn how to do their own book covers, but I will say it did work out in my favor to learn that skill. Okay. We did a lot of reviewing for 2024. Let's talk not so much just about my 2025 goals, but how am I setting better goals for 2025? I've talked a tiddly bit about it. For one, I am being a lot more intentional about measuring and tracking my goals. I've created a spreadsheet and a document. I am actually including that for free in my Patreon. So if you are a Patreon member, you will get that document where I set goals, track goals. You will be able to see my template for free. I also am going to list it for $3 for non-Patreon members. So if you would like to check that out, if you are really struggling with goals or really struggling to wrap your head around how to achieve your specific goals and what makes a good goal, that will be available on the Patreon shop for $3. I'm also being more intentional about tracking my progress monthly and setting step goals monthly using the SMART goal system. So I'll have my big goals for the year that I will have set, and I will make sure they all fit the SMART system. And then every month, I will set a smaller SMART goal that will lead to that larger goal. And so I'll take those large goals and I'll think about monthly what things I need to do in order to achieve them by my 1 year mark. So I've scaled it out for the month. And then each month, when I sit down to look at things for the month, I will set smaller goals. So for instance, when the big goal is publishing 3 books, how are we publishing 3 books? Well, for me, I need about 6 months start to end to produce a book. So there's 6 months right there to figure in. So if I am publishing 1 book in this month, then I know I need to do the math backwards 6 months. And from there, you can figure out where all the steps to publishing a book fall. So firstly, you have to finish writing the book. That would be really early in the process. So that's going to be one of those first months, right? And then I need to do my own editing of that book. That'll be like maybe the second month if you write a book in a month, so on and so forth. So you scale them out from there. You start big and you keep moving small, small, small until you have like your smallest goals. And if you want to get super intentional, those small goals can be as simple as creating a list or opening a document. It can be as simple as that, and checking those goals off will help you move forward to the next one, I promise. So yes, it sounds like a lot of work and it sounds taxing, but in the long run, it's going to pay off for you because you'll hit that big goal. And when you look back on it, you'll think, holy moly, how did I do all of this work? Well, it's because you've done the really small things first and it didn't feel taxing because you were able to check something off on your list that you know, because you're trusting in the process, is going to lead towards that big goal because you've set all of the steps out. You know it's attainable because you've set the steps out and each step is attainable and doable. And so it keeps you moving forward and forward. So that is why I scale it out from the year to the month. And that is why I'm trying to be more intentional in making a smart system for my monthly goals as well. Something else that I started early. So this is a step that you really should be doing in November, December, and I considered my time audits. If you've never done a time audit before, I highly encourage it. I do it every now and then with like no particular goal in mind, just to see where all of my effort is being placed, because you'd be surprised how often you put effort into things that aren't serving you. So that is what a time audit is. What I would do if I was doing a time audit is I would sit down and I would track my day. So what are the things I've done today? When did I do them? At 9 o'clock, I went to the store. At 10 o'clock, I had a snack. Things like that. Small things. It'll tell you where all of your time is. One, what I found is a long time ago when I did this, I discovered that I actually did have more time in my day than I thought. A lot of us don't attempt goals that we'd really like to because we don't think we have enough time. A time audit can tell you, one, whether that's true or not, and two, if it's not, it will tell you where you have time. And you can take those small moments and put them together to maybe accomplish some goals. So for instance, if you want to read a lot of books, maybe you're somebody that has always wanted to read 100 books in a year, because that's a pretty common goal in the book world. Well, if you've never done that because you don't feel like you have the time to, because you get home, you're tired, maybe if you do a time audit, you'd find that, well, you actually spend a lot of time sitting, waiting on appointments. Like you're bussing the kids around. I'm so busy because I have to take so-and-so to soccer practice. Well, maybe instead of scrolling your phone, you could read on your phone. Those kinds of things. It's just changing the way that you utilize your time and really assessing what you're doing with it. And if it's really beneficial to you, or not even if it benefits anything. Sometimes your time, you want to gain your time back for yourself. Maybe you don't want to like have it to lead to any kind of a goal. You just want more me time to sit and scroll your phone. Maybe you also just want that. A time edit can tell you those kinds of things. Something else I'm relying on more in 2025 is community. Something I discovered in 2024 when I was doing my reflection on my goals and the year as a whole. Something I really missed is time with people. And I really miss time with friends and spending time with people that was not like for a different purpose. So what I mean is having dinner just because it was fun, not because we were also trying to accomplish something along the way, like a working dinner, going to a book club to read books for no other reason except to read books. Those are all things that I want to do more of in 2024. And I also want to use in order to accomplish more of my goals. Community can be a very, very powerful thing, especially for authors, because so much of what we do is solitary. Writing is not often a group effort. It is a lot of the time you sitting on your computer, writing out your book in a Word document in silence, just you, or with music and just you, but always just you. There's nobody else there putting the words on the page with you often. So community can be really helpful in making it feel not so lonely. It can also provide you a lot of resources and tools and research maybe for things that you don't actually know how to do, maybe a different perspective that you don't have or wouldn't have thought of. Community can be a system of support from people who also understand what it's like being an author in especially the indie author space. So that is something I am hoping to incorporate in 2025. I am already part of a brand new group of authors. It has been fantastic. I think I will have them on this podcast as well. But I would love to expand that and maybe join a local writers group. There is one near me that I would love to attend more often and gain some insight from them as well. Community, that is something that I am hoping to gain a lot of in 2025. So let's go into my goals in 2025 now. I do have my set goals. I would like to add, maybe tweak a little bit. So as it stands, I am hoping to publish 3 books yet again. 3 books seems to be a really good schedule for me, especially now that I'm going to be gaining a little bit more time. I do think it's doable. So I will be publishing Trial of Flame and Wings, Curse of Blood and Sight, and Snow at Sunset. Those are my 3 books for 2025. I will have pre-order links up soon. That is something I have not done in the past, is have pre-orders out and available this far in advance, but I do plan to set them in advance so that you all have access to pre-order the Kindle versions before if you would like to. I also would like to attend 5 events where I am like a featured author. So either my personal book signing or like book conferences and other things. I already have ideas to line up a couple events. I already have one planned where I am going as a speaking engagement. And of course, if I have signings locally to me for each release of my books, that is 3 right there. And so there's just one more to add in. And I already have a few in mind. The 5 events work as the larger business goal because it gets my name out there further. It is a place where I can actually sell books in person and gain community in connecting physically with other readers and writers. That is also something that I want to gain from going to these events, not even just to sell more books. It is also just to connect with the wider world of authors near me in my area. That is something I'd like to do. I set a goal to have 10,000 TikTok followers. I do know, and I know some of you listening are already thinking this, well, TikTok may not even be a thing in a few months. And I do know that, but I went ahead and set that goal, just being hopeful that I was prepared if we do end up having TikTok for longer. And if we do not, then that is also perfectly fine. That is a goal that will just become something else. Yeah. But I'm going to go ahead and set that because currently TikTok is a part of my marketing plan. And so is a lot of social media. And so I'm just leaving it in my focus. I also have set yet again the same goal from 2024 of 500 YouTube subscribers. YouTube, I love YouTube. I have found a lot of joy in creating the content that I create here on YouTube, showcasing my process in this format. And so I am going to yet again plan and hope and work towards meeting 500 YouTube subscribers. I am hoping to get 4,000 Instagram followers. I'm not too far off from that. The reason I did not set it higher is because looking at the way growth happens on Instagram, my analytics, and then other research I've done to Instagram SEO in general, I decided, because it tends to move slower for me, to lessen that goal. And so that's why I set 4,000. I think it's a lot more achievable. So we are going to focus on that for 2025. And my final goal is Patreon. Patreon, I want 20 paid Patreon members. I already have plans in place to kick off some of this. I have a fun thing coming, wink, wink, may already be in motion at the time of this podcast. Patreon is a focus for me in 2025. How my focus has shifted for 2025, because I have learned a lot from my goal setting experiences in 2024, from what I've accomplished, and how I'm setting goals how that has both helped and hindered me. And so in thinking about that, my big overarching goals and how they serve me, which is something I was not thinking enough about, which sounds really silly, right? You're making goals. They're supposed to be helping you accomplish the big goal. I don't think I was thinking enough about my brand and my community. So I want to prioritize my Patreon and gaining a community there and fostering the people that are there on Patreon. I want to create it to be a closer knit community for us. I want to share more content. There's a lot of stuff that I have to offer that I have always thought would fit on my YouTube channel. And in the past, that has always been where it has gone. And that is where I have fallen short, because it's a lot of content that takes time. And the way I need to be delivering it, I have found out, is different than just YouTube. And it fits very well for Patreon because it needs to be given in like written format or in several pieces, or it needs to be showcased differently than the way I can explain it on YouTube, or I don't want to explain it to just everybody. For instance, I want to give this to people who really benefit from it, that I feel connected with, not just everybody on the internet, because because it's for the people in my community exclusively, people who are accomplishing the same goals, who enjoy the same things. And when that goes to other people that it's not intended for, sometimes it's not worth the effort, or our effort is not targeted to the right demographics. So Patreon is a huge focus for me. I'm also approaching everything marketing wise. It's that big M word that a lot of authors cringe at, marketing, because we don't set out to market books. We set out to write them right, but getting them into the right hands is difficult. And so I'm approaching marketing from an influencer mindset. So I have learned, especially in 2024, as I stepped away from paid advertisements and I started incorporating things in a little more intentionally so I could better see my return on investment as I did these projects one at a time. I have learned that for my community and my demographics and my readership, that I do a much better job marketing my books through free social media avenues, and also just through social media in general. So I am approaching marketing with more of an influencer mindset and using some of those methods that I have seen on other YouTube channels and through other influencer coaches like Modern Millie on YouTube and Jade Beeson. Those are some of my favorites if you are somebody like me that plans to utilize social media a lot as an author. And another big thing, which is related to this podcast, I plan to chase more joy personally and create more joy professionally. So I want to create the things that I love, and I want to share the things I love and indulge in more of what brings me joy. And so I have been cutting the fat a little, so to speak. I've had a difficult time in the past few months getting YouTube videos out like I intend to. So those Wednesday videos, a lot of them haven't happened. And part of that, like I said, is because some of that content is better served on YouTube, or not YouTube, Patreon. Some of my how-tos are better off in my Patreon community, because those are the people who benefit and enjoy them the most, are those people who are looking for that specifically, not just everything on YouTube. And so I'm getting more bang for my buck putting it there than I am on YouTube, where it goes out and doesn't get as many views perhaps. Also, some of the videos in the past I have planned to put on YouTube, while they seem flashy and fun and they're things other authors have done on YouTube, they're videos that don't bring me joy to film, and they have started to feel like a chore. And so rather than put out some of the content in the past that I have planned, I am cutting the fat and I'm focusing on the kind of content that I enjoy creating. And that's kind of where this podcast comes into play. I enjoy showing more of my authentic self, more of my process, and I want to share that with other people. And I want to share my community with other authors communities. I want to bring authors on. I want to discuss what works for me and what doesn't work for me. And I want to see what works for other authors as well and share that with all of you here in this podcast. So that is something I am hoping to do more of in 2025, how my focus has shifted and how I am hoping, fingers crossed, that I am setting myself up by creating better goals and shifting my mindset. This next segment to really end the podcast on a high note. This is my favorite thing to do and how we end every one of these podcast episodes. And this is the Find More Joy segment. So every day, at least weekly, but usually daily, I try to think about how have I found more joy? So what is something that I have done today or weekly that has brought me joy recently? And for me, this video is coming if it's not out on YouTube already, but I have been doing a project where I spend 30 days really dedicating daily time to manifestation. Yes, that sounds like a lot of woo-woo, lots of crystals and stuff, and it's not really. I really put research into what manifestation is, and I found a way to incorporate it daily into my life. Some of those woo-woo principles, but in a way that is psychologically backed. I've actually found some really cool supplementary information. There's a book I am dying to read. I have not read it yet, but it's on the way. Mind Magic. I love everything it stands for. It is all about using manifestation principles and ideas and putting them into practice from a psychological place. And being somebody that's planning to be a licensed professional therapist, psychology is all my jam. So I have been finding joy in manifesting and journaling, envisioning the life that I want, and really creating that through positive thinking and empowering myself daily. So that is a video that will come to YouTube, my journey of 30 days of manifestation. But recently I have been having a lot of success with that. And it has been something that has made me feel really good throughout the day and has really helped support me on the tough days. So hopefully you all can enjoy and reflect on something that has brought you more joy recently. So take a little time, think about that. What is something that has brought you joy? Maybe comment it down below or let us know in some other way. Go journal about it if you are into manifestation like me, and you can follow along and maybe use some of the things I learned in that video. If that video is out, you can watch it now and, I don't know, explore manifestation for yourself. But find more joy, chase more joy, do something for yourself today that empowers you and really brings you some happiness. So that is the end for our podcast episode for the week. Patreon only gets the extended version of this episode. In the episode 2 bonus content for this podcast, we will be reading Curse of Wings and Darkness, chapters 4 and 5. So if you would like to read along with me, get some really fun behind the scenes insight into chapters 4 and 5, specifically of Curse of Wings and Darkness, you can join Patreon for just $5 a month and get all of that bonus content and much more. I showcase sneak peeks, extended episodes of this podcast, early YouTube video content, all kinds of fun stuff over there on Patreon. It's a tight-knit community, and I would love to have you there. So if you are interested, you can click the link in the description to get access to episode 2 bonus content. So thank you for watching and listening to this podcast. If you are an author or a bookish influencer and you are interested in appearing on the Read Books, Be Kind podcast, make sure to fill out the Google form below to be considered. But that is all for this week. As always, thank you for watching and thank you for listening. Read books, be kind, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.